Rich mother-in-law hated me for being poor. She played a prank, calling me the housemaid at her party, and rich mother-in-law hated me for being poor. She played a prank, calling me the housemaid at her party and posting it online to embarrass me. But what my husband did next shut her up. Hi, everyone. I'll be referring to my husband as Harry and my mother-in-law as Olivia. I, 28F, have been married to Harry, also 28, for about 2 years. Harry and I were friends in college. That's how we know each other. We didn't start dating until after graduation. We ran into each other at a mutual friend AS party a few years ago and have been together ever since, almost 4 years in total, including our marriage. Harry and I love each other, and I have no regrets about marrying him. But the only thing I can't stand is his mother. Olivia was a single mother who raised Harry all on her own, and that's admirable. But she's also really arrogant and cold, which makes it hard for me to like her. From the very first day, she made it clear that she didn't approve of me, and I think it has a lot to do with my financial background. I didn't come from a wealthy mother-in-law. My parents worked extremely hard to provide for me and my 3 sisters. We were quite poor growing up. My dad worked as a janitor, and my mom took on several odd jobs to support us. I'm not ashamed of it. In fact, I'm proud of where I come from, and so are my sisters. Let me make it clear. We never saw our parents' jobs as anything to be embarrassed about. They were honest, hard-working people, and they raised us to be the same. We've always been, and always will be, extremely proud of them. But Olivia is quite classist. She instantly made a face when I told her that my dad was a janitor, and my mom used to run errands for people who could afford to pay. That happened during our first dinner together. Since then, she made it clear I wasn't welcome in her mother-in-law and would never be accepted as one of her own. She didn't say anything directly, but she kept her distance from me, physically and emotionally. Whenever she invited us over, she'd use separate, less pretty silverware and plates for me. I didn't bring it up because I thought maybe I was overthinking it and didn't want to make a big deal over nothing. But there were other things too, things I couldn't ignore. She would buy me cheap birthday presents and even left the price tags on. For context, Olivia owns her own business and is well off. She got Harry a luxury watch one year and even gifted her assistant an all-expenses-paid trip to Bali. That same year, she gave me a knockoff Prada bag that probably cost no more than $85. That's when I realized I wasn't imagining it. She truly didn't like me. My biggest mistake was not talking to Harry about it back then. I didn't know how to express something that felt so deeply upsetting. I'd been discriminated against before, but never by someone I hoped to build a mother-in-law with. I actually admired Olivia at first. Since I want to have a business of my own someday, I found her success inspiring. My sisters and I are all finance majors. We went to college with the help of student loans and now have decent jobs. I work in marketing and advertising, but my goal is to build something of my own. I didn't want a bad relationship with my future mother-in-law, which is why I kept quiet and hoped she'd eventually accept me. But that never happened. A few months after our wedding, I finally told Harry that I didn't feel comfortable visiting his mom. I explained that she made me feel inferior, and that I suspected it was because of my mother-in-law's background. He was understanding and promised to talk to her. He did speak to her, but it didn't help. Olivia denied everything, cried crocodile tears, and claimed she'd always been warm toward me. That made me feel even worse because it felt manipulative. I told Harry I appreciated his effort, but I still wasn't comfortable around her. We agreed he could stay in touch with her, but I'd keep my distance until I felt ready. He didn't cut her off entirely, but distanced himself, and I knew she hated me for it. Still, now that we were married, I had to make my peace with the situation. Olivia and I only met at mother-in-law gatherings, and otherwise avoided each other. That worked for a while. Then, a few days ago, Olivia texted me around noon to say she was celebrating her 50th birthday, and wanted me to come a few hours early. She said she wanted to mend things, and admitted that I had been right, that she had been horrible to me, and wanted to make up for it. I agreed and showed up early. genuinely hopeful that she was coming around. But it turned out to be a trap. As soon as I arrived, she told me to wait in the kitchen. It was confusing, but I did it. A little while later, she came in and introduced me to the waitstaff as her housemaid. I was stunned. This was a new low, even for her. To make it worse, she was recording it and laughing like it was the funniest prank ever. Everyone else looked uncomfortable. I was so humiliated, I started crying and ran out. I got in my car and drove home. I had told Harry I was visiting Olivia, but he hadn't read the message since he was busy at work and wasn't planning to arrive at the party until later. I came home to an empty house and cried myself to sleep. A few hours later, Harry came home. He was sitting next to me on the bed, furiously typing on his phone. When I asked why he wasn't at the party, he turned his phone to me. Olivia had posted the video. She captioned it as a prank gone wrong. The video cut off before I started crying, so it didn't seem as cruel, but it was still humiliating. I started crying again. Harry told me not to worry. He was trying to have the video taken down and promised he would make her regret it. She wasn't answering his calls or texts, probably because she was still at the party, but he knew she'd call him soon to ask why he hadn't shown up. And when she did, he kept his promise. About an hour later, Olivia called. I won't repeat what Harry called her, but trust me, it was brutal. He ended the call by saying he was planning to file a lawsuit against her. Afterward, he apologized to me over and over for not taking me seriously earlier. I didn't blame him. When I first brought it up, I made it sound like it wasn't a big deal. I also never told him the full story of everything she'd done. He's not the most observant person, so he never picked up on it himself. He told me I should have said something sooner, and I agreed. He would never have let it go on if he'd known. We talked it through, and then he called his lawyer to see if there was any legal action we could take. Unfortunately, we couldn't file for emotional distress because there were no physical consequences. It would likely be a waste of time. I told Harry we should just cut her off, but he said that wasn't enough. He wanted to teach her a lesson. I could see how angry he was on my behalf, and I loved him for it, so I didn't try to stop him. The next morning, he told me he had contacted his mother and given her an ultimatum. She had 3 days to issue a public video apology, not just to me but to my entire famother and Loey. If she didn't, he'd expose her behavior to her business contacts. Since she built a reputation as a progressive female entrepreneur, that kind of scandal could seriously damage her image. We're on day 2 now, and honestly, I don't feel good about it. This feels a lot like blackmail. I told Harry how I felt, but he brushed off my concerns and said it was the only way to stop her from ever bothering me again. I don't like this. Am I the a-hole for letting my husband go after my mother-in-law? Update 1. Hi. As many of you suggested, I sat Harry down after he got home from work and told him about my concerns. Again. I know Olivia is the bad guy here, but I don't want to stoop to her level just to get back at her. I told Harry I didn't like the idea of using threats to force an apology, especially one that wouldn't even be sincere. Because she would just be saying it for the sake of it, I told him that I didn't want him to go through with this. I asked him to call it off and tell Olivia that she didn't need to post any apology and that she was free to do whatever she wanted, as long as she stayed the heck away from us. Surprisingly, he didn't resist this time. Instead, he broke down into tears, and I had to console him for several minutes before he could finally tell me what was upsetting him. As most of you said already, he was overcompensating for not taking things seriously and for mishandling the situation when I first told him about Olivia. I know a lot of it is my fault, because I was desperate to win Olivia over and have her accept me, even though she hated me. But after watching the video, which has since been deleted, he realized just how deep Olivia's problems were and felt really guilty. He started channeling all that guilt into trying to get back at his mom, instead of just listening to me and considering what I wanted. Talking to me made him realize that he was making the same mistake again, ignoring my feelings and not taking me seriously. It probably doesn't help that I am quite submissive and literally have no idea how to assert myself. But we talked about it, and he texted Olivia to tell her that there was no need for an apology anymore, because he didn't want anything to do with her. That was it. I'm actually quite proud of both of us for handling this so well and making sure that it's us versus the problem, not us versus each other. Honestly, Harry and I care very deeply for each other, which is why it was so hard to bring up the biggest issues. We know we need to work on that, so we've agreed to start marriage counseling. I've already begun looking and hope to get started within the next week or so. I never want incidents like this to repeat again. This has been one of the worst experiences of my life, and I never want to feel the way I did a few days ago. I'm really glad that Harry is cutting Olivia off, because I don't think I would have been able to see her again without wanting to smack the arrogance out of her. I won't do it, but I hope someone does. Update 2. A week has passed since the party. Olivia hasn't tried to contact us since Harry gave her that ultimatum, and she didn't even respond when he told her he was calling it off and no longer needed an apology. We suspected she was up to something. She's not the type to let things slide. But days passed, and nothing happened, so we let our guard down. Today, though, she showed up at our house, with her lawyer. When I opened the door, she walked in without even glancing at me, acting like I wasn't there. She started calling for Harry to come see her in the living room. It was ridiculous. Harry was in our bedroom, and I was already on my way to get him. She didn't need to take matters into her own hands. When Harry came into the room, she told him to sit down on the couch. It was infuriating. She acted like this was her house and that she could order us around. Harry told her he would do what he wanted, and right now, he didn't want to speak to her. He asked her to leave and take her lawyer with her. But Olivia didn't budge. She insisted that he sit and listen. I told Harry to just sit and get it over with, so she'd leave. If she wanted to threaten us legally or say something outrageous, I was ready to hear it, then kick her out. Harry sat down, and I joined him to show her exactly who's boss in this house. She ignored me, of course. Then she told her lawyer to start reading a document she had prepared. It basically said that she wanted Harry to leave me, or she would write him out of her will and give everything to other Fameother in Lowy members, employees, and charity. There was a whole list of her assets, clearly intended to freak him out and make him think about what he'd be losing. But Harry didn't even flinch. He looked bored, fiddling with the ring on my finger, barely paying attention. When the lawyer finished, Olivia asked Harry what he planned to do now that he stood to lose everything. That's when the funniest thing happened. Harry got up, walked over to her, gave her a big hug and said, "Goodbye, Mom." Her face went from smug to shocked. I couldn't stop giggling. She finally acknowledged my existence, just to snap at me and throw a tantrum. She called me several choice words I won't repeat. I didn't say a word. I just ignored her, which I knew would piss her off more than anything. Harry and I spoke like she wasn't even in the room. He said it was time to return to our bedroom, because watching her breakdown was embarrassing. That's when she took it too far, accusing me of being a gold digger. She said she never should be approved of our marriage and that I was only with Harry for his money, just like my loser dad. That crossed the line. She has no idea how hard my father has worked for us. I told her my husband had just rejected her and all her money, so I was clearly not a gold digger. I'm a working woman. I don't take money from Harry and do everything on my own. She had no clue what she was talking about. Then I told her to get out of my house before I called the police. She finally left, but the visit left a horrible taste in our mouths. At least now she knows not to mess with us. Update 3. Hey guys, I am back because Olivia did something incredibly nasty and low, and I cannot believe she thought she could get away with it. 2 weeks passed since her visit, and we thought it was over. But today, I got a call from my parents. Olivia had barged into their house and insulted them, called them terrible parents for raising a gold-digging, conniving B-word like me. She told my mom that if she had stayed home instead of working, maybe her daughters wouldn't have turned out so badly. She insulted my dad's profession again, and said it was no surprise his daughters were filthy. My parents were nearly in tears. I was furious, still am. I'm at work right now, so I can't do anything yet, but once I'm done, I'm going to Olivia's house. I texted Harry to let him know, but I don't want him to come with me. I just want him to be prepared when she inevitably calls him crying about what I said to her. Update 4. I'm home now. I got back from Olivia's house about 3 hours ago, and let me tell you, it was incredibly satisfying to yell at her. She wasn't surprised when she opened the door. She was smirking. That's when I lost it. I pushed past her, walked into her house, and asked if she really said all those things to my parents. She confirmed it, proudly. So I screamed at her, loudly. I even surprised myself. I called her a hypocrite and a failure of a mother for never putting Harry's happiness above her pride. I told her that she'd failed, and she couldn't break us up because Harry and I actually love each other, something she clearly doesn't understand. Then I said I was glad her husband died when Harry was young, because he probably wouldn't have survived living with her. That was harsh, but I meant every word. She started crying, but I didn't stop. I kept yelling until I ran out of steam. Then I stormed out. When Harry got home an hour later, he told me he'd also gone to Olivia's house right after work. He missed me by minutes. When he arrived, she was curled up on the couch sobbing. I thought he'd be mad at me, but he wasn't. He hugged me and said he was proud of me for standing up for myself. He also apologized for what his mom said to my parents. Apparently, Olivia told him everything I said, including the bit about his dad, and expected him to leave me. Instead, he told her that she had said worse things about my Faye mother and Loie, and that I was right to defend myself. They argued again. She accused me of pretending to be soft and innocent, but Harry told her I wasn't pretending. I just hadn't done anything to hurt her, unlike what she had done to me. He reminded her that she had multiple chances to fix things and didn't take them. Then he walked out, even as she screamed for him to come back. We're still going ahead with counseling, and it's going really well. But now we know for sure. We've got each other backs, and that's all I've ever wanted.